Good morning, everyone. My name is Specialist Anderson, and I'm here today to talk to you about conflict management. I would like to welcome you all to this class, but I would like to particularly welcome my SGL, Staff Sergeant Brady. The classification for this block of instruction is unclassified. Our agenda today will begin with examining why conflict occurs within our team. We will follow that by exploring the conflict management styles and how they can either help or hinder our team. We will conclude by exploring conflict management strategies for us to utilize as team leaders when we must step in to adjudicate. I am an American soldier. I'm a warrior and a member of a team. Our identification as members of a team is preceded only by identification as soldiers and warriors. Conflict between team members is inevitable. As part of Tuckman's stages of group development, conflict is even a key part of moving from the storming stage to the norming stage. However, with proper conflict management, we can ensure that this conflict leads to growth within our teams. Why does conflict occur? According to the Chartered Management Institute, a UK-based group that emphasizes effective management practices, one way that conflict manifests itself is through information or lack thereof. Lack of information creates a lack of clarity. This is often seen in our profession when we are given a task, but we are not properly explained, we are not properly given information on how to perform the task or the standard to which will be held. This in turn creates a sense of confusion within our team, which leads to frustration, as we are now unclear on how to accomplish our mission or the standard to which we should accomplish it. Another way that conflict manifests itself is in the environment. This most often occurs when a team member places their own individual values above that of the team. This creates a team member that is competing for status within the team and no longer focused on the mission. Similar to environment, conflict occurs when there is a difference in values. On top of occurring when an individual places their own values above the team's, this also occurs when different cultures collide. It also occurs when different values, like an emphasis on punctuality or the definition of professional behavior, occurs. We have all had soldiers, or even been soldiers, who do not fully understand the importance of being on time or what constitutes professional behavior both in and out of uniform. Next, conflict manifests itself in skill or lack of skill. Oftentimes a soldier will come out of the schoolhouse for their MOS, but they will still be unclear on how to accomplish their role within the team. Or a team member will be unfamiliar with a piece of equipment that we utilize within our team. This in turn leads to frustration again within our team, as now the team is unfamiliar. The team must now compensate for the team members' lack of skill as well as the accomplishment of the mission. Lastly, conflict manifests itself through a difference in identity, namely, when a team member believes that a certain part of the accomplishment of the mission is beneath them. This leads to a lack of effort or even a sense of complacency on the part of this team member. This is also seen when members of a team are embroiled in an argument and they refuse to back down because they believe that their viewpoint is the superior viewpoint. Lastly, it is important for us to remember that conflict can manifest itself through more than one of these factors. Having looked at why conflict occurs, we must now examine conflict management styles and how they can help or hinder our team. We'll begin with one extreme, the competitor. The competitor places their individual values above the team's values. They believe that their viewpoint is the superior viewpoint and the only way to accomplish the mission. Therefore, they are stubborn and overly assertive, which tends to hinder the team. On the other end of the extreme, we have the avoider. The avoider goes out of their way to avoid conflict, often at their own expense. While not as extreme as the avoider, we have the accommodator. The accommodator will still make their opinion known, but they will often give in for the sake of diplomacy within the team. As team leaders, we must identify these two conflict management styles, as both are done at the expense of the individual who exercises them and can lead to resentment in that individual in the long term. Next is the compromiser. The compromiser seeks a beneficial solution to the conflict. However, they still maintain the superiority of their viewpoint, and therefore it is still not the ideal conflict management style for us to utilize. The ideal conflict management for us to utilize is that of the collaborator. The collaborator seeks to maximize positive outcomes while minimizing negative outcomes. The collaborator places an equally high value on both the accomplishment of the mission and the relationship between them and their team members. Finally, it is sometimes crucial for us as team leaders to step in to adjudicate conflict within our team. We must begin by defining acceptable behavior. By defining acceptable behavior, we can sometimes eliminate conflict before it even occurs. And when conflict does occur, we will have a little bit of guidance on how to proceed in our adjudication. Next, we must not avoid conflict as team leaders. We must pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient, in how we deal with conflict. As I've already stated, avoidance of conflict often is done at the expense of the individual, and in turn leads to resentment. Next, we must avoid jumping to conclusions, even when the solution to the conflict is obvious. We must approach conflict from all sides and examine every perspective. And most importantly, we must set aside our own personal biases as much as we can. Lastly, we must think opportunistically, not punitively. For the sake of expedience, we can sometimes adjudicate conflict by seeking to punish the individuals involved. But as team leaders, we must remember to use punishment only as a last resort. Instead, when we adjudicate conflict, we must seek the best opportunity for our team to grow. In conclusion, we have examined how conflict management is key to being effective leaders. We've examined the reasons for conflict and how those reasons manifest themselves. We also examined the conflict management styles and how they can help or hinder our team. Lastly, we examined conflict management strategies for us as leaders to utilize when we must step in to adjudicate conflict within our teams. At this time, are there any questions? Thank you.